everyone, and welcome to the Home Designer Quick Start demonstration. My name's Kendra and I will be presenting today. I'll be presenting today using Home Designer Professional. We also have Architectural Suite and Interiors. I will try and point out throughout the demonstration anytime that I'm using a tool that's specific to Home Designer Professional. And I'd also like to mention that we offer the option to rent Home Designer Professional for $49 a month. So let's go ahead and talk about what we'll be going over today. I'm going to begin by drawing out the walls and dimensions. We're going to create multiple stories, design a roof system, create stairs. We'll go over a kitchen design, the electrical, we'll add in framing. We'll also review our landscaping tools, generate a material list, and then we'll finish it off by creating a layout sheet in Home Designer Professional. And then we'll have time for any questions or answers at the end of the demonstration. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get into my Home Designer Professional 2019 software. And this is my startup options screen here. I have some getting started resources that'll redirect you to our website where you can find training videos and download additional library catalogs. We also have an announcements section here to keep you up to date on the latest offerings from Chief Architect. And then I could come up here and select New Plan to get started in a new design. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and open up my Rosemont plan. That's what I'll be using today. So with my new file open, I can find all of my tools across the top of my screen here. We also have these parent tool icons. And this drop down is your child tool list. And you also will notice that you have this child tool palette on the left hand side of your screen. If you don't see that, you can come up here to View and then come down to Tool Palette and just make sure that's turned on. I'd also like to show you the library browser. So if you come up to View again, you can come down to Library Browser and that'll display on the right hand side of your page. You can scroll through these folders to find what you're looking for, and you can also type in a direct search at the top here. So I'll go ahead and close out of that for now. And I'd like to begin by drawing out the layout, so using my exterior wall tool. But before I do so, I want to check to review the defaults for that, how that wall's building. So I'm going to come up here to the top of my screen to edit, and I'll come down to Default Settings, come to Walls, Exterior Wall, hit Edit. This brings up my Exterior Wall Defaults dialog box. And here I can review the thickness of my wall, but I can get into even more detail if I come down to the left panels here and select Wall Types. Now, Home Designer has a predefined list of wall types that you can select. With Home Designer Architectural and Professional, you can also define your own custom wall types. So if I hit Define, this will bring up my wall type definition dialog box and show me each individual layer that this wall is made up of. And I can make adjustments to the thickness as well as the materials that those layers are using. I'm going to go ahead and select OK to accept these defaults. And I'm going to begin drawing out my layout. So I'll just left click in my space and drag, and you can see that I'm getting this temporary dimension that displays. I'm not too concerned right now with these dimensions. I'll come back through and use my dimensioning tools later. Watch here as I line this wall up. You'll see that I'm getting that indication that they're aligned. And with my space enclosed, I get these automatic exterior dimensions that display. If you don't see those, you can come up to the top of your screen here. Here's what your dimension tools. And if you come down to auto exterior dimensions, you can turn those on. Home Designer also shows me my square footage here and has generated a 3D model. So in order for me to see that model, I'll come up to the top of my screen to this camera tool, and I will be using the dollhouse view. There's also a perspective full overview and just a couple different floor camera tools. In my 3D view here, I can see how my floor plan is displaying. I can also zoom in and out, or I can left click to orbit around. I can also hold down my scroll bar to pan around, and I use those two tools quite frequently. At the top of your screen here, you'll see your mouse tools. You can orbit, pan, dolly. There's a few other options here. I also want to see my plan and my 3D camera view side by side. There's a few ways to do that. I can come up to Window, and I can come down to tile vertically. I can also hit Shift F6 on my keyboard, or what I like to do is just grab this tab here and pull it over until I get this blue indication that it's on the right hand side, and then I can let go. And now I can work in both my 2D and my 3D simultaneously. So I am going to finish up my layout here. I need to add a garage. So I'll grab that exterior wall tool again. Just click and drag out a garage space. And now I'm ready to begin dimensioning. So one thing to note is that I do still have my exterior wall tool selected. And so in order to freely select objects again, I will hit the space bar on my keyboard. You can also come up here to the left hand side of your screen and hit this Select Objects tool, which will do the same thing. Now in order to use my dimensioning tools in Home Designer software, I will select the object that I'd like to move. I'm going to start with this wall here off to the right, and then select the dimension. And when I click on the dimension, I get this little dialog box that allows me to input my exact dimensions. I want this to be 50 feet. Home Designer does default to inches, so you'll need to make sure you're putting in an icon if you want to use feet. Then I can hit enter. Watch as my wall adjusts. And then I'm just going to continue to move in a clockwise direction here to complete my dimensions. So I want my garage space to be 22 feet, and I want it to be 3 feet up from the front of the house. Again, 22 feet. One more wall to adjust here. Okay, great. Can kind of pan around in my 3D view here. And I'd like to begin adding in my interior walls now. So back in my plan view, I'll come down to my straight interior wall tool. This is going to work very similar to my exterior wall tool, where I'll just need to click and drag in my space, like so. And I'm just going to draw on a few basic walls here so you get the idea of how these tools work. That'll be good, and then I'll show you how you can dimension them. So again, you'll just select a wall, and now we get these temporary interior dimensions that you can use. I want this to be 9 feet. And then I can use my exterior dimensions as well. Okay, so that's pretty good for the dimensions there. And you can see those room enclosures in my camera view. And I would also like to add in some sort of divider here for my kitchen space, but I don't want to see the walls in 3D. I want it to be open up to my living room and my dining room. So I'm going to use this room divider tool. And again, it works very similar to the other wall tools that I've used. And I can dimension that out. Like so. And now my layout is complete. Now I'd like to begin placing my doors and windows. So I'll come up here to Edit and Default Settings, Doors, select Exterior Door, hit Enter. This brings up my exterior door defaults. I can select from a list of door styles. I can also open my library to find additional door styles. I can adjust the size and positioning. And then off to the left, I have panels for further customizing options such as my casing. I can adjust the lights that my door is using, whether or not there's an arch, the hardware that it's using. I can select the hardware from the library, and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and just accept these defaults. And I will grab my hinge door tool. You'll see that I also have a doorway, a sliding door, pocket door, and so forth. And I'll zoom in here, and I'll click and hold down my left cursor to place this door. And if I move my cursor to the left and right and just up and down slightly, I can adjust the hinge and the swing side for this door. Move over and place one more door in my office space here. And if I zoom in on this in 3D, I can select the door and make adjustments to the width here. I can also double click on it to open up this interior door specification. Now if you'll notice, I was using the exterior door tool, but since I placed that in an interior wall, it automatically knows to make it an interior door. So here again I can select the door style. I want to change this to a glass panel door. I'm going to adjust the width to be 60 inches. And after I type in 60, I'm going to hit the tab key on my keyboard, and that'll update my dialog box. And then over on the left panels here, I'm going to select lights, and I am going to give this door 3 lights across and 5 vertical lights. And I'll press OK. And then I'm going to select that door, and at the bottom left-hand side of my screen, you'll notice that I have this bottom toolbar. This allows me to further interact with the object I have selected. I am going to come down here and grab this Center Object tool, and with the door selected, I can hover my cursor over this room and center the door on the room. I also want to use this Copy tool to make a copy of the door, and then I'll hover my cursor over here into the kitchen space and paste that door into the kitchen, like so. And then I am going to dimension this by selecting the door, selecting this dimension. I'll make it 7 feet. So you can see that using these same basic dimensioning tools in Home Designer software, you can pretty much dimension anything very quickly and easily. So I do want to add in a garage door now. So I will pan around here in both views and come up here to my garage door. I'll place that into the space, double click on it, and I'm going to make this 16 feet wide. Hit OK. And then for my front exterior door, my entryway, I have created a custom door and saved it to my user library. So I'm going to come up here to View, Library Browser. I'll minimize my core catalogs and come down into my own user catalog. This is where you can save your own custom library items. I'll come down under the Rosemonts and select my exterior door here, and then I will just click to place that in my plan, like so. I'd like to add in my windows now, so I'll come up here to my window tool, and I'm just going to select the standard window, and I'll click to place that in my plan here. And I will select that and grab this dimension. I want to make it 10 feet from that wall. And then one more tool that I am going to show you guys here is the Copy Reflect About tool. Now this is only available with Home Designer Professional, so if you're using the other programs you can just continue to use the basic dimensioning tools. But I'm going to come down here to this Copy Paste, and then here I have this Reflect About Object option, and I can hover my cursor over the door and make a copy of that window on the other side of the door. I'm going to add one more window into the kitchen space here. I want to make some adjustments to it, so I'll drop it in, and then I'll double click on it to open the dialog box. I'm going to adjust the window type to be a single casement. I'm also going to adjust the size, change the height to 40 and the floor to top to be 90, and select OK. Great, so now I'm going to close out of my library browser, and I will zoom around here a little bit, because next I'd like to define my room types. So if I click in this space here, even though I don't have walls, you can see that I have a room enclosure because of the room divider tool that I used. If I double click on this room, I can open up the room specification dialog, and the room type holds a lot of very important information. So I'm going to come down here to room type, and right now it's unspecified. I have this large list of rooms that I can select from. I'm going to select kitchen. If I come under here under the structure panel, I can make adjustments to the ceiling height and the ceiling structure, as well as the floor structure. If I hit edit under floor structure, I can come down here and adjust the structure type that I'm using. These structural specifications are only available with Home Designer Professional. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK for now for my kitchen space. And you'll notice that my floor material adjusted. In the kitchen I'm using this tile material. I'm also going to select my garage space and mark it as a garage. Hit OK. And notice in my 3D camera view that my foundation has adjusted to build on a slab because I've marked that as a garage space. So if I open this up, I can look under the structure panel and see that my floor structure is now 4 inches. If I hit edit, I'll see that it's this concrete slab. Exit out of that. Okay, so now I'm going to draw out my front deck. So I'll come up here to my deck tools and I'm going to grab this straight deck railing and I'm just going to click and drag like I did with the wall tools. It's going to come right off to the front of the house, and watch in my 3D camera view as I connect this last deck railing. You'll see that my room is defined as a deck space, and in my 3D view it is building with posts and footers. So if I open up this deck space, or this deck room, excuse me, I can come under deck, and you can see that my deck framing is automatically generating. And here I have controlling over my deck planking. With architectural, with professional I also gain control over my deck joists, and then I have this deck support panel with professional as well, so I can control my beams, my posts, and my footings. I'll go ahead and select OK and accept these defaults for now for how my deck is building. Now I'm going to come in here and adjust the dimensions, make this 7 feet. And then now that my space is dimensioned, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the display of these exterior dimensions. So I'll come up here to Tools and come down to Display Options. In Home Designer software, everything is placed on a layer, and here I can control my layer display options. So I'll click into this field here and I'll select D for dimensions, and I'll just uncheck the display of these automatic dimensions and select OK. Now those dimensions are still available to me later on if I want to turn back on that view, but I've just cleaned up my plan here a little bit. I'd like to review the foundation tools now. So it is automatically generating, but if I want to make adjustments to that, I can come up to Build and then down to Floor and Build Foundation. Here I can select different foundation types. I can build with walls with footings or a monolithic slab, and I can adjust the slab thickness and the stem wall height. With Home Designer Professional I can also control build with grade beams on piers, and then I have this options panel off to the left where I can further specify my structural details of the foundation. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And you can see that my camera view over here moved down to the foundation level. That's because I'm building with the dollhouse view. So I can just come up here to the top of my screen and I can move up 1 floor to show that first floor. And now I do want to build a second story onto this plan. So I will go ahead and come back up here to Build and down to Floor and Build New Floor. Now this is going to bring up a dialog that asks me if I want to derive my second floor plan from the first floor plan or if I'd like to create a new blank floor plan for floor 2. I'm going to derive it from my first floor and select OK. Here I can adjust the structural control for my floor 2. Under relative heights, I'm going to change the finished ceiling height to be 9 feet and hit tab. And you can also adjust the moldings that this floor is using and the materials. I'm going to go ahead and just select OK to accept the defaults. Again, I'll move up a floor in my camera view so I can see what that looks like. And I do want to turn on one tool when I'm working in multiple floors, and that's called my reference floor display. So I can come up here to Tools and go down to Reference Floors and Reference Floor Display. I can also select F9 on my keyboard for the shortcut. And here in red, you'll see my first floor layout. Now my second story is only a partial story. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these walls back. I don't need a second floor over the garage. And then I'm going to line it up with this wall here on the first floor. Now if I get close enough to lining that up, at the bottom of my toolbar here, I have this Align with Wall Below button, and I'll go ahead and select that, and Home Designer will just line those up perfectly. You'll notice that once that wall's aligned, that tool will disappear from your bottom toolbar as it's no longer needed. So now I'm going to select my right wall, and I'll make this 21 feet from the left. And now I'll zoom around so you can see this space in my 2D, or my 3D, excuse me. And I'd like to add in some railing walls, some straight railing walls. And I'll grab this railing wall and I'll make it 12 feet out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this room here, and I'm going to define this as an open below room so that I can see down to my first floor. So in order to do that, I'll double click in the space to open up my room specification, and under the room type I have this predefined open below room. Select OK, and you can see here that I can now see directly into my first floor, and I have this kind of loft space that I've created. So now I just want to drop in a few windows here. I'll select my window tool, and I'll dimension this left window to be 3 feet from the wall, and then again I'm going to use that copy and reflect about tool to reflect it about my window in the center, and that completes my second story. Next I'd like to create stairs for this space, so I will zoom around in my 3D view here so I can get a good view of where my stairs are going to go, and then in my 2D I'm going to come down to floor 1. And I can turn off that reference floor display now, so I'll come up to Tools, Reference Floors, and uncheck Reference Floor Display. And now I'd like to get into my Stairs tool. Now I have a variety of different stair tools. I can use the Draw Stairs to create custom stair designs. Straight stairs are primarily for short spans, like from a deck down to a terrain. I have curved stair options, a U-shaped stair. I'm going to be using this L-shaped stair. If I select that, I can choose whether I want it to go clockwise or counterclockwise. I'll go ahead and select OK. And then here I get this preview. And you'll notice that as I move my cursor from side to side, the direction of the staircase changes. I will go ahead and single click to place it. And then I can grab these stair sections and adjust the number of treads. And I'll just pull this up to match that railing. And you'll notice here in my 3D camera view that it automatically created that doorway. Now I'll double click on my staircase here. This brings up my specification dialog box, and because I'm using that automatic L-shaped stair, Home Designer is making this the best fit of treads and riser heights to match from the first floor to the second floor. But if you were using had more of a custom stair space, you can make adjustments to these. You can lock the tread depth and make adjustments to the height and so forth. If I come under this style panel, I can make adjustments to the stringer, the winders. I'm going to come under railing, and I want to uncheck railing at the wall. And then you can also make additional adjustments for the newels and balusters, materials, and so forth. I'll go ahead and select OK. And I can see that that railing's been removed there, and my staircase is almost complete. One thing that I would like to add is a wall below the staircase. That way I could have like a closet space under the stairs if I wanted to. So in my 2D floor plan, I'll come up here to my wall tools and grab my straight interior wall, and I'm just going to draw a wall out directly below the staircase, and I can see that that comes in nicely, and my staircase is now complete. So next I'd like to move on to designing the roof. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of my 3D camera view here, and I'll show you guys an image to remind you what the roof looks like. Okay, so here's the roof design. You can see that I've got kind of a gull wing roof system coming out over the deck here, and then I do have just a shallow hip roof on the second story, and then I've created these gables with full roof returns. So let's go ahead and get started. So back in Home Designer, I can come up here to build and go down to roof and build roof. So this is my build roof dialog. If I come up here to the roof styles panel on the left, these are all the different roof styles that can be created using the automatic tools in Home Designer software. If I don't make any changes, it'll automatically build hip roof. I'm going to go ahead and select OK for now, and we'll take a camera view here. So come up to my camera tools, and then this time I'll do a perspective full overview. And here you can see just how my roof is automatically generated. Again, I'll tile these views side by side. And I want to make a few changes. So first of all, I do want to have a ceiling and a roof over my deck. So that is adjusted in the deck specification. So I'll open that room type up and come under the structure panel here. And under ceiling, I'm going to select roof over this room and flat ceiling over this room and hit select OK. And because my roofs are automatically building, I'll see that update. Now, one more thing that I'd like to do right away is make changes. Right now, all of these walls are hip walls. I want to change these to gable. So if I select a wall, down in my bottom toolbar, I have this change to gable. And I can pan around here and see that updated. And I can see that Home Designer has automatically generated this attic wall here to fill in that space for my gable. So I do want to continue to make adjustments to these walls to change them to gable walls. So I'm going to multiple select them. So to do that, I'll select a wall, hold down my shift key on my keyboard, and then continue to select the remaining walls. And then again, I'll use that change to gable tool. And in my 3D, I'll see that updated. Now, the next thing I'd like to do is make this gull wing design. And to do that, I will select my front and my back wall, and I'll open them together to make adjustments. Now, that is only going to be available with Home Designer Professional, but with the other programs, you can make adjustments to each wall individually. So again, I'll hold down my shift key, select both walls, and I'll use this Open Object tool. And here I will come under my roof panel on the left, and I have various roof options for hip, full gable walls. This Dutch gable wall is a new feature with Home Designer 2019. What I'd like to do is adjust the pitch. So I want my pitch to be 4 and 12. Then I'm going to add in an upper pitch as well, and it's going to be 6 and 12. And then I want my upper pitch to start in from my baseline 8 feet. And I'll hit OK. And watch as my gull wing style is generated there. So now I will pan around, and I like to make adjustments to my second story pitch now. So back in my 2D, I'll come up to the second floor. And again, I'm going to multiple select these walls by holding down my shift key. Open them up, go to the roof panel, and adjust the pitch. I want it to be 5 and 12. Select OK. And now it's time to create those gable walls with the full returns over my doors. So I'll go back down to the first floor, and I'll start with the garage space. Now, so far we've been using the automatic tools in Home Designer. I will show you how you can create this using the automatic tools, and then with Home Designer Professional, you gain the ability to create manual adjustments to your roof system, so you have more roof control. So I'll show you that variation as well. But let's go ahead and start with the automatic tools. So over this wall, I'm going to come up to the top of my floor plan, or the top of my screen, and grab my break wall tool. And I'm just going to place a break on the wall on either side of this garage door. And that allows me to select this wall segment. Now notice here that on the bottom left hand side of my screen I can see that I have a door or doorway selected, so it's grabbed my garage door. I can hit the tab key on my keyboard and that'll filter through objects and allow me to select that wall. Then I'll go ahead and hit the open object tool. Under the roof panel, first I'll need to change it to a full gable, and then I'm going to add in an auto roof return, and I want this to be a full roof return. Select OK, and I can see that automatically generated. Now I'd like to do the same thing again using the manual tools over the front door. So how I'll do that is I'll first add in a doorway here. I'll open that up, and I want it to be 12 feet wide. Select OK. And then I will grab my break wall tool again and place a break on either side of the doorway here. Hit tab on my keyboard to filter to that railing wall. And I'm going to change this to a gable wall, my bottom toolbar. And now, with Home Designer Professional, again, I can individually grab each roof panel, or roof plane, excuse me, and I can come down here and I have a variety of tools specific to my roof plane. I'll grab this break wall tool and place a break right here at the corner. This is a notification that's letting me know that this is going to modify a roof plane, and since my auto rebuild roofs are turned on, my changes will be lost. So I'm going to hit yes, and that will turn off my auto rebuild roofs. And then I can grab this roof plane and just edit it like I would any other polyline based object. And I'll grab another break and place one more directly below my last one. And then I can grab this roof plane and drag it out, and I can see that updating in my 3D view here. And then I'll select it, and I just want to pull it up right up against my attic wall, and then continue to drag it across here. Adjust the angle, and then I'll pull those together. Alright, and it's as easy as that. Now we do have additional training videos on using those manual roof tools in Home Designer Professional, so please feel free to head to our website and check those out. So now I'd like to turn off my roof layers, so I'll come up here to Tools, Display Options, type R for roofs, and I'll come down here to roof planes and just deselect the display of those layers and hit OK. Next I'd like to design my kitchen space, so I'll go ahead and close out of my camera view here, and I'll pull up an image to show you guys what we'll be creating. So I have kind of this L-shaped kitchen. We'll be placing in lots of cabinetry, fixtures, and appliances. So I'll go ahead and minimize this, and let's begin. So I'll come up to the top of my screen to my camera tools, and this time we'll use the floor camera. So this tool, how it works is you click in your plan and you drag towards the area that you'd like to display, like so. So again, we'll tile our views here to work side by side. So first I'm going to quickly come up here and turn off the kitchen label layer. So I'll come up to Tools, Display Options, and select R for Room, and then I'll just come down here to Room Labels and uncheck that display. Okay, and then I want to review the defaults for my base cabinets, so I'll come to Edit, and then down to Default Settings, Cabinets, Base Cabinet. And here I can review the size and positioning of my cabinets, the countertop thickness that I'm using, the backsplash height, toe kick, and so forth. And then off to the left, with Home Designer Professional, I gain the ability to customize the box construction to be framed or frameless. But with all the other programs, I can control face items, the doors and drawers, and then with Architectural and Professional, I can control the moldings, materials, and so forth. So I'll go ahead and select OK. Hit done to accept the defaults, and then I'll come up here and grab my base cabinet tool. You can see that I also have a wall cabinet, full height cabinet, and then a soffit and some other custom tools here. Now Watch as I move my cursor into the corner here. This cabinet automatically turns into a base cabinet, and then I can single click to drop that into my plan. I'd like to add one cabinet next to the base cabinet, and I can double click on this to manually type in the dimensions of this cabinet. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that, and instead I'll just grab the edit handle and resize this to be a 30-inch cabinet. Grab my base cabinet again and just quickly go around to place out the L shape of my kitchen. This is going to be a 36-inch cabinet. This sink cabinet will be 42 inches. And while I'm here, I'm going to grab my window and I'll just use my center objects tool to center it on that base cabinet. I'll do one more cabinet next to the sink to hold the dishwasher. We'll leave that at 24 inches. And then I'll do another 12-inch cabinet here. And in my 3D view, I can see that it is a left opening cabinet. So I'll double click on that. And in this preview panel here, I will select the door, and this redirects me to my front panel. And here I can select the item type, and I'll change this to a door auto right, and the swing side of that door will be adjusted. Select OK, and that completes my base cabinets. I'd now like to add in my wall cabinets. So first, I'm going to come up to Edit, Default Settings, Cabinets, Wall Cabinet, and I'll make some adjustments here. I want the height to be 39 inches. I'll then move over to the Moldings panel. And again, with Architectural and Professional, I can specify my molding. Right now I'm using this CA73 for a crown molding. I'm going to replace that. This opens up my library browser here, and if I open up the catalogs, it'll take me directly to my moldings. I'll come down to crown molding, and I will use this CM01. Select OK, and I can see the preview over here. That looks great. If I wanted to, I can adjust the height and the width of my molding profile. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it as is, and select OK to update my wall cabinet defaults. Then I'll grab my wall cabinet tool. Again, I'm going to start with this corner cabinet, and I'll place another cabinet off to the side. I'm going to open up this cabinet and make some adjustments here. I want the width to be 42 inches. And then I'm going to come under this door drawer panel here, and I want to adjust the door style. So I'll open up my library, and this opens up my library to architectural, cabinet doors, drawers, doors, so right where I need to be. And I'm going to come down here, just scroll a little ways. I want to use this divided glass door 3, and I'll select OK, and OK again, and that's updated. So I'll grab another wall cabinet and just continue placing these here. This one is going to be 36 inches. We'll have another small 12-inch cabinet here. Again, I need to adjust the door swing side. Change that to auto left. Grab my wall cabinet tool again, and I'll place another here, and I'll resize this one to be 36 inches, like so. Now I'd like to begin adding appliances, so I'll start out with a refrigerator. I'm going to come up here to View and come down to Library Browser. Open this up on the right-hand side of my screen. Under Core Catalogs, Architectural, Appliances, and I'll come down to Refrigerators. I'm using a standard size refrigerator called the side-by-side. I'll go ahead and select that, and I will just place this into my plan here. I'm going to leave a little space in between the refrigerator and the cabinets, and I'll zoom around here so we can see, because I need to add a partition there. Before I add my partition, I do have an overhang on this cabinet, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and under countertop, I can see that I have a 1-inch overhang that's currently uniform on all sides. I'm going to uncheck uniform, and I'm going to change the overhang on the right to be 0. That flattens that out there. So then I can come in and grab my partition under my cabinet tools, and I'll place one here, and then I will drag and pull it out to meet the end of the cabinet, and then I'll use my open object tool here to make some adjustments to the size. I need the height of this to be 81 inches to sit just below my cabinet that's going to go above the fridge, so I'll select OK. Then I can move my fridge into place here, select that partition. I'll use my copy reflect about tool again, reflect it about my fridge, and then I'll grab a wall cabinet, and I'm going to place a wall cabinet over the fridge here, and then I'm just going to resize it to fit right on top there, like so. Now I'll add in a dishwasher, so I'll come back over into my library, come under dishwashers, and I'm going to grab this Chef Series dishwasher, and I'll simply, with that selected, simply click on a cabinet and place that dishwasher there. Next I'll add a sink. So I'll close out of appliances and I'll come down to fixtures, sinks, kitchen sinks, drop in, and I'm using this triple sink here, and I'll click to place that sink in my plan. And that completes the kind of layout of my kitchen here. I do have a custom island that I've created ahead of time, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that from my user library. My kitchen island here, and I'll place that into my plan. Then I'm going to close out of my library browser to give myself a little more space, and I can move this window here to resize it because I want some more space in my 2D plan. And this kitchen island is an architectural block. So these are available with Home Designer Architectural and Home Designer Professional. It's a group of items that have been blocked together to save into the library browser. You can also, once you've created the block, explode the block to make further adjustments. So with this block selected, I'll come down to my bottom toolbar and I'll use this Explode Architectural Block tool. And that explodes it so that it's all, again, unique symbols. If you need to create an architectural block, you can draw a marquee, again with architectural or professional, to multiple select all of those items, and then at the bottom of your toolbar you'll see this Make Architectural Block tool. And then if you want to save that to your library, you can hit this Add to Library button, and that'll put it in your user catalog. I do need to reposition the island in my kitchen, so I'll use my dimension tools for that. I'll come up to the top of my screen here to my parent dimension tool, and I'll be using this end-to-end dimension. I'll just come from the end of this cabinet to this cabinet, and then again here. I'll select the island, select the dimension, and I'll make it 48 inches. I'll do the same here, like so, and then I can go ahead and just remove these with the delete key on my keyboard. Now I realize we've gone through this kitchen design pretty quickly. We do have a full another demonstration that goes over the process of designing a kitchen from start to finish, and we have further training resources on our website, so please do check those out. But I'm going to move on now to the electrical. So I'm going to come up to the top of my screen here to my electric parent tools, and I'll come down to my light here. This is just a can light. I'll place one in my plan up here in the corner. And then with that selected, I'll be using my Transform Replicate tool. Now this is only available with Home Designer Professional. So with the other programs, you can place lights using the standard dimensioning tools. But to use the Transform Replicate tool, I'll come down to the bottom of my screen to this Transform Replicate object. And here I can make copies. So I'd like to make 3 copies. and I'd like to move these copies. So using transform replicate, I can move in 3 different directions. The X delta is going to be left and right on my plan view, the Y delta is up and down on the plan view, and the Z delta is the height value that you see in a 3D view. So I'd like to make copies of these and going up and down. So I'm going to do that in the Y delta, and I'm going to make them -4 feet. Make sure to use the foot indicator, hit tab on my keyboard, select OK. Now with those 3 objects already selected, I'll hold down my shift key to multiple select all 4 of my can lights. Again, I'll be using my transform replicate tool. I'm going to make 2 copies this time. This time I'll be moving them to the left in my plan view, so the X delta, again -4 feet. Hit OK. And you can see that I've got some can lights now right above where my island is. So I can just delete those since I already have these pendants here. And I'll place one more can light over my sink. And now I need to add in some switches. So I'll come over here to switch and I'll zoom in and I'll place 2 switches on this wall. And I'll place another switch next to the sink here. And you can see that there. And now I need to add in my connections from my switches to my lights. So I will grab my Connect Electrical tool. I'll start at the switch and I'll single click and drag to a light and then I'll let go. And then I'll just keep clicking and dragging to each individual can light here. Like so. From this switch, I'll connect it to the pendants. Oh, and I apologize. Before I can do that, I will need to explode this architectural block so that I can find each individual pendant. Okay, and I'll do one more above the sink. And these electrical connections are standard splines, so they can be edited and customized really to clean up your view however you'd like. Next we'll add in some outlets. So we have different outlets that you can manually place. I'm going to use this auto place outlets tool though. So with that selected, you can see the icon that's following my cursor, and all I'll have to do is just single click in the room to automatically place outlets in a room. And you'll notice that I have all these GFCI outlets that are being placed, and because this room was specified as a kitchen, Home Designer automatically puts in those GFCI outlets as needed in a kitchen space. This does finish up the electrical, so I'm going to come up here to Tools, Display Options, and I'm going to turn off those electrical layers. So I'm just going to type in an E, and I'll turn off the display of the electrical, and I'm also going to turn off electrical connections, and I'll select OK. So next I'd like to begin making specifications for my framing. Now with Home Designer Suite and Architectural, framing is automatically generated, so you can come up to the top of your screen under your camera tools and use the perspective framing overview to see that generated in 3D. But with Home Designer Professional I do have further customization for my framing, so I'm going to come up to Build and down to Framing, and I'll select Build Framing here. Now I'd like to turn on automatically build floor and ceiling framing, and here I can control the subfloor from my floor 1, so the floor structure. If I hit edit, I can specify my framing materials and the structure type that I'm using. Press OK. I can also come to my wall framing and select automatically build wall framing. I can control my plates and my blocking. I also have further customization for my roof. I'll turn on my roof framing here. If I'm using trusses, posts and beams, and so forth. I'll go ahead and select OK, build my framing, and I'll close out of my kitchen camera view, and I will take a framing overview camera, and I can see how my framing is generating in 3D here. Now, this is all automatically generated, but with Home Designer Professional, I do have these manual framing capabilities, so I can select each individual member and make adjustments. I have additional framing tools to build with posts and beams, to control my joists, my roof, and my rafters, and so forth. Now you'll notice that I don't see any framing in my 2D plan view, so I will come up to the top of my screen to Tools, Display Options, type F for framing, and I can just come down here and turn on any framing that I'd like to see, my floor joists, headers, so forth. And again, each of these joists is editable. I'll go ahead and turn those back off for now. Click OK. Again, we have further training resources on our website, so we have a lot of more information on framing. So let's go ahead and move on to the landscaping design. I will pull open an image here, and we'll cover how to drop in a terrain perimeter, adding in plants from the library, and going over a backdrop. So back in Home Designer, to create a terrain perimeter, I can close out of this framing camera view here, and I'll come up to Terrain and down to Create Terrain Perimeter here, and that'll drop in a terrain perimeter. I'll go ahead and take another camera view, just a perspective full overview, so I can see how that looks in 3D. And again, I'll tie on my windows. And this terrain perimeter is a polyline based object, so if I select it, I can make many edits to it. I have different controls on the bottom of my toolbar to break the lines, to change the lines to arc, and so forth. I'm just going to resize this terrain, so I'll select this dimension here and change it to 175 feet by 100 feet. That's great. And then to move the terrain relative to the house, I'll just add in a dimension line here from the side of the terrain to the side of the house. I'll select my terrain perimeter, select that dimension, and I'll change this to 50 feet. And before I hit enter, I have two different options here. So I can move both ends of the terrain to make that 50 feet. That'll actually resize it, and since I've already dimensioned it out, I'm going to select this move entire object to move the full object and shift it to the left 50 feet. Then I'll hit enter and move that, and then I can just delete this dimension using the delete bar on my keyboard. Now if I wanted to add in elevation information to this terrain, I could. I can come up to terrain, and I have this elevation data, and I have many different tools to put in points and lines and elevation regions and so forth. You can also come up to file and import, and you can import terrain data as well. I'm going to leave this as is, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to place my stairs from my deck down to my terrain. So I will go ahead and come up here to my stair tool, and this time I'm going to be using the straight stairs. If you'll remember, those are for shorter distances, and I can just hover my cursor to where I'd like to place the stairs on my deck and single click, and Home Designer will automatically create the appropriate staircase to attach the deck to the terrain. And then I can come in here and just select it and resize it. Like so. I'll add one more here to the front of the house. Like so. And then I'm going to multiple select both of these staircases. I will open them up, and I will go ahead and make adjustments to the style. I want these to be closed underneath, and I want to have closed risers. So I'm going to uncheck those two options and select OK. Alright, so that finishes up my staircase. Now I do want to make some adjustments to the materials that my deck is using. I'll be using my material painter, so I'll come up to the top of my screen here to my material painter icon. It looks like a spray can. If I select that, this will open me up to my library, and I can again scroll through here to find a material that I'd like to use, but I know that I want to use a hickory material, so I'll type in hickory and hit enter, and then I can scroll down. I'm looking for this hickory 3 by 4 by 5 inch plank. and I'll select OK. And then my cursor turns into a spray can here, and if I just click on my deck material, I can adjust that. And now, one thing I would like to note is that there are 5 different material painter modes that you can use. If you look at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, you can see these. So these allow me to replace the material per a component, or I can replace the material on an entire object, replace all like materials for the room, the floor, or the plan. So as an example, I will keep it in component mode here, and I will replace all like materials of these joists, or on this joist. And then I can move it to object mode, and I'll zoom into my staircase here, and I'll replace all like materials on the staircase. So all of this white material I'll replace, and then the treads I'll replace as well. Do this for my next staircase, and for the rest of my deck framing. And this is just letting me know that it's going to automatically turn off deck framing. I'll select yes. Now while I'm adjusting materials, I'd like to grab my material painter again, and this time I'm going to look for a white shingle material. So under my materials, I will come down to roofing, shakes and shingles, metal, and I'll select this white metal shingle and hit OK. And I would like to adjust all of this siding material on my second floor. So I'm going to change my component mode to floor, and then I'm just going to click on my second floor, and you'll notice that that adjusts all of my attic walls and my second floor walls. So that completes my material adjustments, and next I'd like to add in a road and sidewalk and driveway. So I'll zoom out here. So I'll come up to the top of my screen here under terrain, and I have all these different terrain tools and features that I can use: garden beds, water features, stepping stones, and so forth. I'm going to grab my road and sidewalk tools, and I have a straight road and a spline road and a straight sidewalk and a spline sidewalk. The splines are for creating curvature, and then I also have a driveway area and a parking lot. I'm going to go ahead and grab my straight road, and I'll zoom out here, and I'll draw out the road. And notice that I have some overhanging here. The terrain perimeter is the boundary line for what will display in 3D. So notice that anything outside of the terrain perimeter I won't see. So do keep that in mind. If I wanted to resize this driveway, I can select it, and these objects resize from the center line. I'm going to move that up against the bottom of the terrain, and then I'll grab a straight sidewalk, and I'll draw that out across, and I'll bump that up against the road. And then I will grab another straight sidewalk from my stairs to the road, like so. And then again, I can grab this from the center line and resize it as needed. I'm also going to add in a driveway area, so I'll grab my driveway tool, and I'll just draw this out. Again, all of these are polyline based objects, so you can make adjustments to the shape if you'd like. I'm going to keep it like so, and I will begin adding in some landscaping features. So for my plants, I can come up to View and down to Library Browser, and I can come down to the bottom left-hand side of my library browser, and I have this Plant Chooser tool. So if I select that tool, this allows me to sort through thousands of plants in the Home Designer library. I can sort by common or scientific name, the type of plant, its specific needs, your hardiness zone, and so forth. I'll close out of that. I can also search through my library browser by plant. To save some time, have created a landscaping architectural block. And I can just click to place that into my plan here. And I can select this architectural block and grab this move handle to move it into place over my house. Note that you may have to hold down the control key. Within Home Designer, these objects are trying to take advantage of the snap grid and the reference grid. So just hold down that control key if you ever need to freely move an object. But what I would like to use is with Home Designer Professional, I have a point-to-point move tool. So I'll select the tool from the bottom of my screen, and then I will click on the point on the architectural block that I'd like to move, and I'll click where I'd like to move it to. I can then explode this architectural block and make any adjustments I need to make this fit exactly into my space. So I'm just going to move these garden beds a little bit, and that looks good. So now I want to add a backdrop to my plan. So on my library browser, under my core catalogs, I'll come down to backdrops, come to land. I'm going to use a flat backdrop, and I want to use this valley option here. So I just select it, and then I click in my 3D view to drop in that backdrop. I can also import my own if I come up to File and then Import Backdrop. I'll close out of my library browser. Let's take a look at some different camera view options. So I'll pan this over and let go so it takes up my full screen. And I can kind of zoom around here. Alright, so if I come to the top of my screen, I have these rendering techniques. So right now I'm in a standard view. I can also do a vector view or a glass house, technical illustration, and so forth. From my standard view, what if I'd like to, I can export this full 3D model to my online Chief Architect account, and then I can share that model, or I can embed it on my website. So to do that, I come up to File and down to Export, and export Chief Architect 3D Viewer file, and then I can put in my email address and my password for my Chief Architect account and hit OK, and that'll export. So we have more information on that as well on our website. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and begin explaining the material list. So back in my 2D plan view, I can come up here to Tools and down to Material List, and I can select to calculate materials for all floors. I can also do this per room or by a specific area. I'm going to calculate the materials for all the floors. And this shows me a list of all my foundation materials, my subfloor framing, siding, everything that I've used in my plan. I can control the member reporting style at the top left-hand side of my screen. I can choose a cut list, buy list, or mixed reporting. With Home Designer Professional, I can input price for each individual item. So for example, for this concrete, I can make it $90 per cubic yard, and that'll adjust my total cost. I can also save this to a master list with Home Designer Professional. So once you input pricing one time for a specific item, you can draw from that master list for each plan moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. So now I would like to begin making my construction document. So I'm going to open a layout file. This is only available with Home Designer Professional, but to open it I'll come up to File, and you can select a new layout if you'd like. I'm going to open a recent file because I have this layout template that I'll be using today. And you can see how you can adjust your text to name your plan, and you can customize your title block however you need. And then to send different images to the layout, I'll go back to my plan view, and I'm going to do some layer cleanup here. So I'll come up to Tools, Display Options, and I'm going to turn off the display of my terrain features and my terrain perimeter. I'm also going to turn off roads and sidewalks. I'll turn off plants, and a few other things that I need to turn off are going to be my door and my window labels. So doors and windows. And I'll select OK. Now I want to start out by just zooming in and sending this first floor plan to my layout sheets. I do want to display the dimensions that we had created in the beginning. So again, I'll come up to my display options and just turn on my automatic dimensions and select OK. And then at the top of my page here, I have this send to layout option. So I'll go ahead and select that. And I have a few different choices here. So I can send the entire plan view, just what's displaying on my current screen, or I can send the current screen as an image. If I send an image, it's not going to hold any scaling information. So I'm going to do the entire plan view, and I'm going to adjust the scale to be 1/8 and go ahead and select OK. And I'll just select that and move it down a little ways because I'd like to create a front elevation view. So I will come back into my floor plan here, and I'm going to come up here to my camera tools option, and I'm going to use this cross-section elevation. We also have an interior wall elevation tool and a back-clip cross-section. So I'm going to select that cross-section elevation tool, and I'm going to get a front elevation of the house. So I'll click out front and slide my camera towards the house and let go. And this brings up my elevation view here. I would like to add a dimension, so I will come up to the top of my screen to my dimension tools, and I'll use this end-to-end dimension from the ridge of my roof down to the top of the foundation. And then I'm just going to grab that dimension line and pull it out a ways. And I will go ahead and send this to layout. Again, I'll do my entire plan view at 1/8 inch scale and select OK. And then I'll move that to the top of my screen. So that's how you can utilize the layout sheet by sending different views from your floor plan. This does conclude today's presentation. If you have any further questions, we'll hang around for a bit so you can chat those in to Philip. Please remember that we do have a free trial version as well as a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're an existing customer, we have upgrade discounts available. We do offer a lot of further training resources on our web page. So reach out if you have any questions. Our phone number and email is at the bottom of the screen. And we want to thank you all so much for attending, and please let us know if we can assist you further.